Before there was light, there was an embrace. In the Maori tradition of Aotearoa, the sky was not always up there. In the beginning, the Sky Father, Ranginui, and the Earth Mother, Papatūānuku, lay pressed together, locked so close that nothing could come between them. And in the crushing dark between their bodies their children were born, and there the children stayed. This is the story of the Son who ended that embrace, the God who set his feet against the sky and pushed, and by pushing made room for light, for forests, for people, and in the end for death itself. Begin in the dark, not the dark of night. Night hasn't been invented yet. This is the first dark, the pressed, airless blackness between two bodies that will not let each other go. The Sky Father and the Earth Mother joined. In the old telling, darkness rested on the heaven and on the earth, for they still clave together, not yet rent apart. And between them, children. Gods, in fact, sons born into a world with no room in it, no horizon, no sky to look up at, because the sky was the ceiling pressing down on their backs. Every one of them born into the same cramped night between their parents' bodies, and every one of them growing slowly, unbearably, into beings too vast for the space they were given. Imagine being a god, and never once having seen light. That is where everything begins, not with creation out of nothing, but with a family packed into darkness and the pressure rising. Eventually the sons had to decide what to do, and the argument they had in the dark is one of the most startling moments in any mythology. Because the first serious proposal on the table was murder. Tumatawenga, the fiercest of them, the god who would come to preside over war and over humankind, put it plainly: kill them, slay the parents, end the sky and the earth, and be free of them. "It is well," he said in the old telling. "Let us slay them." Sit with that for a moment. The first recorded family meeting in this tradition, and the motion being voted on is whether to kill mother and father. But another voice argued for something else, not death, but distance. It is better, the argument ran, to rend them apart, to force the sky to stand far above, and to let the earth lie below underfoot. Not to destroy the parents, but to separate them, to turn a prison made of two bodies into a world with room to stand in. That was the plan that won. The parents would live, but the embrace would be broken. By force. Breaking the grip of heaven and earth turned out to be harder than deciding to. One after another the brothers tried to force their parents apart, and one after another they failed. In the tradition as Te Ara records it, Rongo tried, Tangaroa tried, Haumea and Tu tried, and the sky and the earth held fast to each other against all of them. Think about what that failure means. These are not small beings. These are the gods of crops and of the sea, of wild food and of war, each one throwing his whole divine strength against the weight of the sky pressing down on the body of the earth, and the embrace beat all of them. Whatever held Rangi-te-pō was stronger than war itself. Then Tāne tried, and Tāne did not wrestle the sky with his arms, the way his brothers had strained and heaved. He turned the problem upside down. He lay down on his back, planted himself against his mother, the earth, and set his feet against his father, the sky. He made his own body the wedge between them, and then he pushed. He strained his back and limbs, the old text says, with mighty effort, a slow, grinding, full-body labor, the son bracing against the mother to lever the father away. And slowly, impossibly, the two who had never been parted. The sky tore away, upward, becoming the vault of the heavens. The earth settled below, and for the first time since the beginning of everything, light. Light flooded into the space where the darkness had been, into every hollow where the children had been pressed. The old telling puts it simply: the darkness was made manifest, and so was the light, because until you can see, you don't even know what darkness was. One push. That is the hinge the whole Maori cosmos turns on. Everything that follows, every forest, every war, every human being, happens inside the room that Tāne's legs made. But not everyone wanted the light. One brother had opposed the whole plan, Hine-nui-te-pō, god of the winds and storms. He had not agreed to tear the family apart, and when it was done, when he watched his father dragged into the far height and his mother left below, he grieved. In Gray's telling, he feared his own kingdom would be overthrown. In the tradition Tiara records, he rose into the sky to be with his father, and from up there, with Ranginui, he plotted his revenge. Then he declared war on his brothers. He fell first on Tāne, on the forests, the god who had done the deed, the legs that had made the push, him first. Tauhiri came down on the great trees and broke them, snapping the new green kingdom his brother was raising in the open air. Then he turned on Tangaroa, the god of the sea, and whipped the water until the waves grew as tall as mountains. The ocean itself churned into a weapon against the brother who lived in it. And he did not fight alone. He loosed his own children on the world, and the tradition remembers them by name, like a muster roll. Wanui, the terrible rain. Waroa, the long-continued rain, the rain that does not stop. Wahwatu, the fierce hailstorms, an entire arsenal of weather bred for the purpose, aimed at his own family. This is the part of the story you can still watch any day the weather turns. When a storm strips a forest or hammers the coast, that is the old grievance replaying. The brother who never forgave the separation, still taking it out on the brothers who did it. The world the sons won by breaking the embrace was not a peaceful one. It was born with a war built in. And what of Tāne himself, the one whose feet did it? He became the life of the space he had opened. In the tradition, Tāne is the god of the forests and of the birds, the father, as Gray's telling has it, of the forests and of all things that inhabit them, or that are made from trees. A scholarly account in the Journal of the Polynesian Society puts it just as plainly. Tāne is the tutelary deity, the guardian genius of forests and birds. That is why in Te Reo Māori the great forest has a name that is also a genealogy, Te Wāonui-a-Tāne, the great forest of Tāne. Every tree standing between the earth and the sky is standing in the gap Tāne made, holding it open. Every bird in the canopy lives in his household. When you walk into deep forest, in this way of seeing, you are not walking into scenery. You are walking into the body of the God who made room for you to exist. He pushed the sky away, and then he filled the space with living things. Creation, in this tradition, isn't a single act. It's a push, and then a green flood. But the two who were separated never stopped loving each other, and the tradition marks their grief in a way you have felt on your own skin. The mists that rise at dawn from the valleys and the bush, those, the old telling says, are the soft warm sighs of Papatūānuku, the earth mother, still rising toward the husband she lost, her love made visible, climbing, and the dew that settles in the night, that is Ranginui weeping, the sky father mourning from his height, dropping his tears onto her body below. In Gray's words, men see them and call them dewdrops. So the weather itself is a long-distance love story. Every morning, mist is a sigh sent up. Every dewfall is an answer sent down. The separation stood. It had to, for the world to exist. But it never stopped costing something. The whole sky grieves for the whole earth, forever, and we live in the space between them, walking through their letters to each other. The world had light now, forests, birds, storms. What it did not have was people. So Tāne, the god who opened the world, did one thing more. He went to the earth itself, to the place the tradition names Kurawaka, and there he shaped a woman out of the soil, out of clay, out of the body of Papatūānuku herself, the mother he had pushed the sky away from. In White's 19th century record of the tradition, there is a moment in this scene that is almost unbearably still, the form lying there complete, arms, legs, feet, the body of a woman, perfect and empty. No life in the form, the old text says. She adhered to the earth, still part of the ground she was made from, not yet a someone, a shape waiting on the threshold of being a person. Her name tells you what she was, Hine-ahu-one, the earth-formed maiden, the first woman, not descended from gods, but sculpted out of the same ground the sky father still weeps on. And then she came to life. She rose from the soil, the first being ever to do so, and she bore Tāne a daughter. Stop and see the pattern, because the tradition is deliberate. Tāne separates earth from sky, then makes a person out of the earth. Humanity, in this telling, is not a late arrival to the world. We are made of the mother. Every human being is a piece of Papatūānuku, stood upright in the gap her son opened. Now comes the turn, the part of the story that gives the whole creation its shadow. Tāne's daughter was called Hine-nui-te-pō, and Tāne took her as his wife. She did not know, and the way the tradition stages her discovery is one of the quietest horrors in any mythology. In the old song of the Ngārauru people that White recorded, the question rises like a knife. Who is the father by whom I am? She asked the post of the house, and its mouth did not speak. She asked the side of the house, and its mouth did not speak. Think of that image. A woman standing alone inside her own home, interrogating the walls, and the house knowing the answer and refusing to say it. But she learned the truth all the same. Her husband and her father were the same person. And in the telling, she was smitten with shame, disgusted, the modern account says plainly, and she fled, not to another village, not to another island, down, out of the world of light her father had made, down the road the tradition calls the expansion of darkness into the world below, as far from the light as it is possible to go, because the light itself was his. She did not come back, but she did not vanish either. She changed. At the door of the dark world, her name itself was changed, and she became Hine-nui-te-po, the great daughter of darkness, the great woman of the night, the goddess of death. Understand what the tradition has just done. Death is not a monster from outside creation. Death is Tāne's own daughter, the child of the god of life, driven into the dark by his own act, waiting there ever since. The same story that opens the world closes every life in it. The door out of the dark and the door into it were built by the same family. So stand back and look at the whole chain, one embrace broken. And from that single push, light where there had been blackness. A war in the winds that still rakes the forests and the sea, the great forest of Tāne, green and loud with his birds, holding the sky and the earth apart. Morning mist and evening dew, two parted lovers still writing to each other across the gap, a woman raised out of the soil at Kurawaka, and at the bottom of it all, in the dark below the world, a daughter who became the end of every road, Hine-nui-te-po. She is still there in the stories. Ages later, the tradition tells, the trickster Maui would creep toward her in her sleep, trying to undo death itself, and she would end him. We have told that story already. It begins where this one finishes. That is the shape of the Maori creation. Not a god speaking a world into being from nothing, but a family in the dark, and a son who chose light over comfort, and paid for it in grief. His parents parted forever, his brother at war with him, his daughter lost to the night. Tāne pushed the sky away with his feet. Everything since, every daybreak, every forest, every person, every death, has happened in the room he made. He gave the world its light, and his own family gave the world its dark.